My beloved child, something has shifted behind the scenes, and your soulmate is carrying a happiness that they have struggled to explain even to themselves, because a piece of their heart finally feels lighter after a long period of uncertainty. There is a reason their energy feels different now, a reason their thoughts have become warmer, and a reason they keep returning to the memory of you with a smile that appears before they even realize it. What they have recently discovered about you has changed the way they see this connection, and before this message reaches its final words, you will understand why their happiness has become so difficult for them to hide. There was a time when your soulmate looked at this connection through the lens of confusion, hesitation, distance, and emotional protection, but something inside them has recently begun to soften. They have started realizing that what they felt for you was never as temporary as they tried to convince themselves, and the memories they once attempted to push away have become the very memories that now bring comfort. They are becoming happier because they are finally allowing themselves to acknowledge feelings that were previously buried underneath pride, fear, circumstances, and silence. Archangel Michael says the happiness surrounding your soulmate is connected to a realization that arrived quietly but carried enormous emotional weight, because they suddenly understood that your presence in their life left an imprint that could not simply disappear with time. They may have tried to move forward without looking back, but certain moments kept returning to their mind with remarkable clarity, especially the moments when you showed kindness without demanding anything in return. Now their heart is beginning to understand that genuine affection does not always arrive loudly, and sometimes the deepest connections become recognizable only after distance has created enough space to see them clearly. Your soulmate is also happy because something that once seemed impossible has started looking possible again, and this change has created a completely different emotional atmosphere within them. They have begun imagining what it would feel like to speak honestly, to reconnect naturally, and to experience the warmth that existed between you without allowing old misunderstandings to control the future. The happiness you sense around this person is therefore not random, because it is connected to hope returning after a period when they had almost convinced themselves that hope was unnecessary. Type Amen 111 if this message resonates with your heart. Your soulmate has recently experienced a moment of emotional clarity that made them recognize how much they actually miss the simple things about you, including your voice, your expressions, your unique way of responding, and the feeling they experienced whenever your attention was directed toward them. These memories are not making them sad in the way they once did, because now those memories are becoming evidence that something meaningful once existed and may still deserve another chance. Their happiness comes from realizing that remembering you no longer has to feel like a weakness, because they are finally comfortable admitting that you matter deeply. There is another reason their mood has changed, and it involves the way they now perceive your personal growth, because they have noticed that you are not standing in the same emotional place where they last saw you. Something about your energy, your confidence, your independence, or the way you carry yourself has made them realize that you have continued growing even when they were not present to witness every step. This has created admiration inside them, and admiration has slowly become one of the strongest feelings connected to their thoughts about you. They are happy because they no longer see you as someone waiting for them to make a decision, and that realization has affected them more deeply than they expected. They understand that you have your own life, your own direction, your own dreams, and your own emotional strength, and this has made them appreciate you in a completely different way. Instead of feeling pressure, they are beginning to feel inspired, because the person they remember is now becoming even more impressive in their eyes. Your soulmate has also started understanding that the connection was not valuable simply because of romantic attraction, but because you touched parts of their personality that very few people ever reached. You may have made them feel understood without needing to explain everything, and that emotional recognition became something they could not easily replace elsewhere. Their current happiness comes partly from remembering that feeling and realizing that genuine emotional safety is rare. Type Amen 333 if your heart feels connected to this message. Something unexpected has been happening inside your soulmate, because the more they try to imagine their future, the more naturally you appear within those thoughts. They may not have planned this, and they may have initially resisted it, but certain future scenes now seem incomplete without the possibility of you being present. This is why their happiness feels different, because they are no longer thinking only about what went wrong in the past, and they are beginning to imagine what could go right in the future. They are beginning to understand that mistakes do not always erase meaningful connections, and this realization has released a tremendous amount of emotional pressure from their heart. There were things they wished they had handled differently, words they wished they had expressed more carefully, and moments when they allowed circumstances to influence their decisions more than their true feelings. Instead of drowning in regret, however, they are beginning to see those experiences as lessons that help them become more emotionally mature. Your soulmate may have recently encountered something that reminded them strongly of you, such as a song, a familiar location, a particular scent, a conversation, or even an ordinary phrase that suddenly brought your memory forward. Instead of pushing that memory away, they allowed themselves to feel it, and something surprising happened because the memory brought warmth rather than pain. That moment helped them understand that their feelings have changed from confusion into appreciation. There is also a secret happiness connected to the possibility that you may be doing better than they once assumed, because they have wondered about your life during the periods when communication was limited. They may have imagined that you were struggling to move forward, but discovering or sensing that you have become stronger has made them genuinely happy. Their happiness is not based on possession, because a part of them simply wants to know that you are safe, growing, smiling, and becoming the person you were always meant to become. Type Amen 777 if you receive this message with an open heart. Your soulmate is also happy because they have stopped blaming themselves for every complicated part of this connection, and that change has allowed them to breathe emotionally again. They now recognize that both people were navigating circumstances, emotions, insecurities, responsibilities, and misunderstandings that were not always visible from the outside. This understanding has replaced some of their old guilt with compassion, and compassion has created room for genuine hope. They are beginning to see that their silence did not necessarily mean absence of feeling, because sometimes silence came from not knowing how to communicate what was happening internally. They may have feared saying the wrong thing, making the situation more complicated, or revealing emotions that would make them vulnerable. Now they are becoming more comfortable with vulnerability, and this emotional maturity is one of the reasons their energy feels considerably happier. There is a beautiful realization growing inside them that you did not need to be perfect for the connection to matter, and neither did they. They are finally seeing the humanity behind the mistakes, the tenderness behind the disagreements, and the affection behind moments that once seemed confusing. This has allowed them to remember the connection with greater softness, and that softness is replacing the emotional heaviness they carried for so long. They are also happy because they are beginning to understand your value without needing another person to validate it, because something inside them now recognizes that the qualities they admired in you were never ordinary. Your patience, emotional depth, loyalty, resilience, warmth, and ability to keep going through difficult periods left an impression that became stronger with time. What they once took for granted has become something they now appreciate profoundly. Type Amen 555 if this message speaks to the deepest part of your heart. Your soulmate has been learning that real affection can survive periods of distance because meaningful emotions do not always disappear simply because circumstances become complicated. They may have tried distractions, routines, responsibilities, or new experiences to redirect their attention, but certain feelings continued returning whenever life became quiet. Now, instead of fighting those feelings, they are beginning to understand them. A major source of happiness for them is the belief that the story between you may not have ended in the way they once feared. They are realizing that an unfinished chapter does not necessarily mean a painful ending, because sometimes people need time apart to become emotionally prepared for a healthier version of the connection. This thought has brought them relief, because it gives their heart permission to hope without forcing the future to happen immediately. Your soulmate may also be smiling because they have imagined how different a future conversation could feel compared with conversations from the past. They imagine less defensiveness, more honesty, fewer assumptions, and a greater willingness to listen carefully to what the other person truly means. This imagined emotional peace has become comforting to them, and that comfort is one of the hidden reasons they currently feel happier. There is another layer to their happiness that involves your individuality, because they are beginning to appreciate that you were never meant to become someone else simply to make the connection work. They now understand that the very qualities that made you different were also the qualities that made you unforgettable. Their heart is learning to admire rather than control, appreciate rather than demand, and understand rather than assume. Type Amen 888 if you believe beautiful changes can begin quietly. Your soulmate is carrying a renewed sense of confidence because they have finally started believing that they can handle the emotions they once feared. They are not as intimidated by their own feelings as they used to be, and this has created a surprising sense of freedom within them. When a person stops running from their emotions, even difficult feelings can become sources of clarity. They are also beginning to feel proud of the way they have grown since the last significant chapter between you. There were lessons that challenged them, experiences that forced them to mature, and moments that revealed aspects of themselves they had previously ignored. Now they can look backward without feeling trapped by the past, and that freedom has created space for happiness. A particularly strong realization has been forming around the idea that your connection taught them something about themselves that no ordinary relationship could have taught them. You may have reflected their strengths, weaknesses, hopes, fears, and emotional patterns back to them in ways they did not understand at the time. Today they recognize that experience as valuable, and remembering it brings gratitude rather than resentment. Their happiness is also connected to the possibility of becoming emotionally honest, because they no longer want to spend energy pretending that everything is meaningless when their heart clearly remembers otherwise. They are tired of hiding behind casual explanations for emotions that have remained persistent. This honesty may not immediately become a dramatic action, but internally it has already changed something important. Type Amen 1212 if you feel this message arriving at the right moment. There is a quiet excitement around your soulmate because they feel that the future contains possibilities they once considered closed. They are not necessarily expecting everything to transform overnight, but they are becoming willing to believe that circumstances can change when people change. This new attitude has made their emotional world brighter, because they are no longer looking at the future through the same limited perspective. Your soulmate is also happy because they are starting to understand that your connection does not have to repeat old patterns. The past may have contained confusion, hesitation, missed opportunities, emotional distance, or imperfect communication, but the future can be approached with greater wisdom. They are beginning to imagine a connection where both people communicate more clearly and protect each other's emotional peace. One of the most beautiful changes is that they are no longer romanticizing only the intense moments, because they are beginning to value stability as well. They want the calm conversations, the comfortable silence, the shared laughter, the ordinary days, and the feeling of knowing that someone genuinely cares. This shift shows that their feelings are becoming more mature and less dependent on dramatic emotional highs. They have also realized that happiness with someone is not always about grand gestures, because sometimes the most meaningful experience is simply feeling emotionally safe around another person. Your soulmate remembers moments when being around you felt natural, and those memories now carry greater significance. They are discovering that peace itself can become a form of love. Type Amen 444 if this message fills your heart with peaceful hope. There is something else your soulmate is celebrating internally, and that is the possibility that you may still hold some warmth for them despite everything that happened. They may not know exactly what you feel, but the thought that the emotional door might not be completely closed has brought them comfort. This uncertainty is no longer frightening them as much because they are becoming prepared to accept whatever truth eventually emerges. They are also happy because they have stopped measuring the connection only by physical closeness or constant communication. They now understand that emotional impact can remain powerful even during periods when two people are not actively speaking. This realization has helped them appreciate the connection without demanding immediate proof. Your soulmate has become more observant about the small signs of emotional compatibility that they previously ignored. They remember how naturally certain conversations flowed, how easily you could make them laugh, how comfortable they sometimes felt around you, and how certain moments seemed strangely effortless. Those memories have become reminders of something they now consider precious. The happiness surrounding them is therefore connected to appreciation, hope, maturity, and emotional acceptance. They are not necessarily celebrating because every external circumstance has already changed, but because something internal has changed enough for them to believe that happiness is possible again. Their heart has started moving from fear toward possibility. Type Amen 999 if you are ready to receive peace, clarity, and beautiful emotional growth. Your soulmate may also be experiencing a period where they are becoming unusually sentimental, because memories that once felt distant are suddenly becoming vivid again. They remember small details that they never expected to remember, including expressions, conversations, places, and moments that seemed ordinary at the time. The human heart sometimes preserves what the mind tries to forget, and your soulmate is finally allowing those preserved memories to speak. They are happy because they now understand that remembering you does not have to interfere with their life, because memories can exist without controlling the present. They can appreciate what happened, learn from what happened, and still continue growing. This balanced perspective has given them an emotional calm that was missing before. There is also a sense that they have become more grateful for the time they shared with you, regardless of how complicated the circumstances became. They realize that some people enter our lives and leave no meaningful trace, while others change the way we understand ourselves. They now place your connection into the second category, and that realization has made their memories feel surprisingly beautiful. Their heart is also becoming less interested in proving anything and more interested in experiencing something genuine. They are beginning to understand that if a future connection happens, it should come from honesty rather than ego, mutual respect rather than pressure, and emotional readiness rather than desperation. This is another reason their happiness feels peaceful instead of chaotic. Type Amen 222 if this message brings comfort to your soul. Your soulmate is becoming happier because they have finally accepted that their feelings deserve acknowledgement. They do not need to exaggerate them, hide them, or constantly analyze them, because simply recognizing their emotional truth has created relief. This acceptance has allowed them to experience affection without immediately turning it into fear. There is a strong possibility that they have also begun imagining what they would say if they ever had a completely honest conversation with you. They have thoughts they would like to explain, emotions they would like to clarify, and memories they would like to acknowledge. Even if those words have not yet been spoken, rehearsing them internally has helped them understand themselves better. They may want to tell you that certain things you did mattered more than you realized. They may want to explain that some periods of distance were not proof of indifference, and they may want you to know that your presence influenced them in ways they never properly expressed. These realizations are bringing emotional satisfaction because they are finally giving themselves permission to recognize the importance of what they experienced. Your soulmate is also happy because they are beginning to see a version of themselves that is more capable of giving love without constantly fearing loss. Their emotional maturity has grown through everything they have experienced, and they now understand that meaningful connections require courage, patience, communication, and respect. This awareness has changed the emotional foundation from which they view you. Type Amen 666 if you feel that something meaningful is unfolding within this message. There is a hidden source of happiness connected to your soulmate's belief that you are stronger than they once realized. They remember moments when you continued forward despite circumstances that could have made you give up, and that resilience has remained one of the qualities they admire most. They now understand that your strength was never about appearing unaffected, but about continuing to live with an open heart. Your soulmate is also beginning to respect your boundaries more deeply. They realize that love should never require someone to abandon their dignity, peace, values, or personal direction, and this understanding has helped them imagine a healthier connection. Their happiness comes partly from knowing that if paths cross again, they can approach you with greater respect than before. They are learning to appreciate your presence without turning you into an emotional solution for everything they feel. This is important because genuine love becomes healthier when two individuals bring their own growth into the connection rather than expecting the other person to repair every wound. Your soulmate is beginning to understand this distinction, and it has brought them an unexpected sense of peace. They may also be quietly celebrating the fact that their life has taught them how to recognize emotional value more clearly. Experiences that once confused them have sharpened their understanding of what they actually want from a meaningful relationship. Now when they think about you, they are not only remembering attraction, but also compatibility, trust, comfort, respect, and emotional depth. Type Amen 1111 if your heart believes that clarity can change everything. Your soulmate's happiness is becoming stronger because they have stopped treating the connection as something they must solve immediately. Instead, they are allowing emotions to develop naturally while focusing on becoming a better version of themselves. This removes pressure and creates a healthier emotional environment where genuine feelings can exist without being forced. They have also begun appreciating the difference between temporary excitement and lasting emotional impact. Many experiences can create quick feelings, but very few remain meaningful after time has passed. The fact that memories of you still carry emotional weight has made them recognize that this connection affected them more deeply than they previously admitted. There is a quiet gratitude within them for every lesson connected to your presence. Even the difficult moments have taught them patience, communication, emotional responsibility, and self-awareness. Instead of viewing the entire experience through disappointment, they are beginning to recognize the growth hidden within it. This transformation is making them happier because they no longer feel trapped by what happened before. They are able to look toward the future without carrying every old emotion with them, and this emotional lightness is changing their entire perspective. Your soulmate is discovering that hope feels very different when it comes from maturity rather than desperation. Type Amen 3333 if you are choosing hope, healing, and emotional peace. There is also a possibility that your soulmate has recently realized how rare it is to meet someone who leaves a lasting emotional impression without constantly demanding attention. They remember the ways you could simply exist as yourself and still capture their attention. That authenticity has become increasingly attractive to them because it feels genuine rather than manufactured. They are happy because they are beginning to value authenticity more than appearances. Their experiences have taught them that impressive words mean little without consistent character, and they now appreciate the quiet qualities that make a person trustworthy. When they think about you, they remember qualities that existed naturally rather than qualities performed for approval. Your soulmate is also learning that emotional connection requires two people who are willing to grow. They no longer expect perfection from themselves or from you, because they understand that relationships become stronger when people are willing to acknowledge mistakes and improve. This realization has replaced some of their previous fear with confidence. The emotional atmosphere around them is therefore becoming warmer, calmer, and more hopeful. They are smiling at memories that once made them uncomfortable, feeling grateful for experiences that once confused them, and imagining possibilities that once seemed unrealistic. Their happiness is not based on fantasy alone, but on the emotional growth that has changed the way they interpret the connection. Type Amen 7777 if this message resonates with the new chapter forming in your heart.